Hi there, Adam here. I'm bringing you this week's Virtual Regatta top tips. This weekend is actually the Sail GP, Act 5 I believe it is, in New York. So I thought I'd theme it with the F50 in mind and take you through some of my top tips to winning races in the F50. However, before you start any races, I just thought I'd quickly go through what I always do when playing on my phone, and that is put airplane mode on and do not disturb. That just avoids any unwanted calls and stuff coming through while I'm mid-race. So we're just about to go into the V50 race, and it's worth noting that at the start of any series, so this training series, for the first race in any series, you get all the race helps for free. So as it's my first race in the series here, I've got all the race helps, which is ideal because it's going to be really useful as I take you through this race. So as we head into the race here, it's worth noting that the course is always slightly different in the F50 to some of the other racing you'll be used to. So it's worth checking that top left-hand corner and getting yourself familiar with the course. Crucial difference is it's a reaching start. It's also worth noting we've got boundaries in this race. So there's a white line, thick white line that goes around the course that marks out the boundaries. So you can't go over them when you're within the race or in the countdown because you'll pick up a penalty. So we're just in the countdown now, just over a minute to go. And the crucial thing on the start is you want to be on the start at go with as much speed as possible. So you want to be approaching at max speed to avoid getting rolled by any other boats coming off the start line. So the crucial thing is to be on the start line at go, but with as much speed as possible. So don't queue up too early because you've got no room to accelerate there. So leave the sort of preparation and the queuing up to the mark as late as possible. So at 35 seconds here, I've tacked over, just going nice and slow, not getting too close to that start line, just trying to think about when I'm gonna accelerate. I'm one of the furthest forward boats here, so I am a bit cautious that I might be slightly early, but I've got no options now. I'm in this position, I'm committed. So just starting to speed up slightly, thinking about when I'm going to go for that full acceleration. Having the timing on the start line help on is really helpful. So that's sort of giving me an indication that now's the time to go. And I'm accelerating as much as I can. And we're off. The boat furthest to windward and one to leeward had a slightly better start, approaching with a bit more speed. But third off that start line, I'm really happy with. So coming into this mark, I'm going to jibe straight away. I always jibe straight away to try and get inside any boats. I'll then luff any boats up to windward of me to try and protect my wind and give myself clear air going down this leg. So now I've got that clear air, I've got inside the other boat there, so I'm in second place now, really happy with that. And now coming into the leeward mark, I'm thinking about in wide out tight. So I'm going to bear away slightly to get a really nice wide in and tight out of this mark. Perfect. And then what I'm not going to do is follow this boat to the boundary. I'm going to tack off early to try and split away from him and give myself a chance of catching him up a little bit. I've also noticed there's loads more wind out on the left, so I'm going to head out to that as well. But however, with F50 racing, different to stuff like the J70 and the Star and smaller boats, you want to minimise the tacks because you really slow down on the tack. So I mainly sail boundary to boundary, trying to avoid tacking as much as possible. So as we come up to this boundary here, it's worth noting I can go into the line a little bit. As long as your entire hull doesn't go over that into that white line, you're good. So a little bit of my hull went in there, but not enough to give me a penalty. The other boat's tacked on top of me here, smart move. Luckily, I think I've got just enough speed to get out of his bad air. So I'm going to sail on here to the other boundary. If I'd have been in his bad air, I'd have had to make the decision whether to tack off or stay on, but wasn't necessary. So as we're approaching the ley line here, the other boat's probably going to tack on the ley line. Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit further because what that'll allow me to do is not get in their bad air and allow me to accelerate coming into the mark as well and bear away a bit. I'm not worried about the French boat to leeward of me because they're fairly tight on the mark, so going to naturally be coming in fairly slow. So here we go, I'm bearing away to get my speed up, so I'm hitting the downwind leg with as much speed as possible, staying as close as I can to the boat ahead. It's worth noting downwind, don't worry too much about jibing more than you were doing tacks upwind, because although you slow down, you speed up again pretty quick. So you can do a few more jibes without fear of losing too much. So what I'm going to do is stick into this pressure on this side of the course. I'm going to jibe over, jibe back once I'm within the ley line for the bottom mark. And then now I'm thinking I want to split from the other boat, because if I've got any chance of getting ahead of them, this is the crucial time. So I'm going to let them see which mark they're going round. Yep, they're going round the left-hand one as we look at it. So I'm going to jibe round the other side and split up the course. So we're now going opposite ways, and I'm actually going into more breeze. So fairly hopeful that I'll be able to close the gap on him here. They have tacked back onto the boundary. They are just coming across. So I think they're still going to be ahead. But I've closed in a little bit. So pretty happy with that. I've just got to see if they tack on me or not. So they don't, ideal. So I'm going to carry on out to this side of the course, making sure I don't sail too far and get myself in a pickle with the boundary. It's worth noting this side of the course, the boundary is more of a slightly different shape. So you've got a corner to this boundary. So don't sail too far into this corner, because you might end up inadvertently cutting the corner and getting yourself a penalty. So I'm going to tack there. I'm a little bit high, so I'm going to bear away slightly just to get some speed, but also to keep myself within the course. Again, I can cut the corner slightly as long as my entire hull doesn't go on that boundary. And I've picked up a nice starboard lift here. So coming in with speed on a starboard lift. The other boat's coming across on port, just crossing ahead, but they've tacked. So I'm going to luff up here to give them bad air. Not too aggressively to slow myself down too much, but enough to slow them down. So I've slowed them down with bad air, and I'm going to bear away here and accelerate away. So really happy with that. Now, because it's a short leg to the finish, I'm not going to do too much down here apart from just check that I'm not getting any bad air from behind. It's all clear. Nice of me said well done there. I think he's accepted that he's got little chance of catching me. I'm going to jibe there for the mark, and then just nice tight mark round in and reach across to the finish. I always leave it till about now to say thanks if someone says well done, because I've messed it up on a number of occasions, so I don't acknowledge anyone until I'm sure I've actually won the race. So there we go, across the line. So yeah, good race there for me. What I'd say is the key things I considered were not being too early on that start line, so approaching with as much speed as I could. I always jibe at the first mark to try and get inside of any other boats. I then also luff up any boats to windward to clear my air, so I've got as much speed as I can going downwind. On the coming up to the leeward mark, I'm always thinking about in wide, out tight as my mark rounding, so making sure I'm going into that mark rounding really wide to get that nice tight exit. Then upwind, do think about the other boats a little bit, but the main thing is sail to the boundaries and limit your tacks as much as possible, because they're what really slow you down. So reduce the amount of tacks upwind. And if you do have any tight, coming into the windward mark, any tight situations, what I'd always say is don't tack right on the ley line, because that'll give you quite a slow approach to that windward mark. So you'll be allowing other boats to catch you up. So sail a little bit past the ley line before you tack and go into that mark with speed. And if you do have a tight battle coming into the top mark, don't be afraid just to give them a little luff and give them some bad air just to slow them down. So when you bear away and accelerate, you can get a little bit of a jump on them going downwind. So that was just a little bit of insight into my thoughts going around the F50 course. No expert by any means, but hopefully those are some useful tips, and I hope you enjoy the F50 racing over the weekend. Cheers guys, bye.